You know, of all the seasons of the year, I think early summer is my favourite because it has so much promise. The leaves are still fresh and green and undamaged by wind, and there are flowers like this to savour. The Siberian iris. If this grows in Siberia, it can't be all bad. It looks at home here alongside my grindstone water feature. But it doesn't have to be by water. It'll grow in any ordinary well-drained soil with these wonderful leaves and this marvellous display of blue flowers. I love it. This week's programme is full of goodies. Stephen Lacey visits a couple who garden in the shade. Bob Flowerdew finds yet another use for car tyres. And we meet a partially sighted gardener whose plot is specifically designed to make things easier. Do you know, I like this part of my garden, especially at this time of year. I call it the kitchen garden, though really it should be called the kitchenette garden because it's incredibly small. At the very top edge, I've got step-over apple trees, then the strawberries I was strawing down last week, rose cuttings there that I took last year, you may remember, now beginning to grow. They'll be planted out in the garden next autumn. Tomatoes that I planted a couple of weeks ago, and now it's the turn of courgettes. At this end of this little patch, as you can see, I cram everything in. The soil has been really well enriched with manure, and I'm tapping out these young courgette plants and planting them in a dip. Top the soil around it. And what this does, this dish shape here, is make sure that when I water it and all the water that goes onto it doesn't run off the surface of the soil, but goes straight onto the plant. Puddle it in like that. It'll enjoy life here in the sun. That's what courgettes adore, full and blinding light. But if your garden doesn't see much of it, then Stephen Lacey has been meeting a couple whose gardening techniques will suit you down to the ground.
I'm at the edge of Pontypridd, in an estate of bungalows and neatly packaged gardens. But if you're expecting another one at the end of the cul-de-sac, you're in for a surprise. For Brian and Sue Dockrell are red-blooded plantsmen. And over the years, they've managed to annex quite a bit of extra land to cope with an ever-expanding plant collection. So this was the first part of the garden you tackled, Brian, was it?
Yes, it was, although I have to say it looked very different then. It was very much rough grass surrounded by a few shrubs that had rather overgrown into one another and didn't really meet our requirements to grow as many plants as we could, which we wanted to do even then. So it's by far the sunniest part of the garden. And one way, I suppose, we've exploited by trying to use it to grow rock garden plants that also like the well-drained conditions.
Yeah. So you built up the sides and incorporated a lot of grit?
Yes, we did. We took the topsoil from the area and actually hired a cement mixer and mixed that topsoil with grit and with sand to give a really well-drained mixture.
Right.
And then used that with rock we found from the garden to build up the raised beds.
And you sort of dotted it with shrubs for a bit of structure.
Yes.
And then woven in with quite a lot of alliums, actually. They do well here, don't they?
Yes, they do. They certainly enjoy the well-drained conditions. Allium farreri there, the very dark purple, is really enjoying itself there.
It is good, lovely with the white geranium sanguineum and the veronica.
Yes, the dark colour shows up very well.
Yeah. And I noticed a lovely little pink allium round at the back there with the pink geranium. What's that one?
Well, that's Allium narcissiflorum.
Oh, it's a new one to me.
Yeah. Yes, nice nodding heads.
Yeah. Well, this part of the garden's got a completely different feel, hasn't it, Sue?
It has. With these big trees, it really is very shady in here all of the summer.
Yeah, so that was a terrific asset to start on, but obviously you have to tackle this in a completely different way.
Yes, because there's obviously a totally different sort of plants that like these conditions from what like the conditions out there.
Well, you brightened it up wonderfully with all this golden foliage, you know, to suggest the sun's coming in.
Yes, and surprisingly enough, a lot of the golden plants do better in the shade because they scorch up less.
Right.
So this Filipendula, out of the heat of the sun, would probably go a lot browner than it manages to keep in here.
You're cutting the flower heads off it now, are you?
Yes, because I think if you leave the flower heads on, it speeds it dying down. So if you take them off, then it keeps its golden foliage a little bit longer.
Right. And the girls picked up by the choisia and the maple.
Yes, again, very good plants for in the shade.
Lovely group around your pot.
Yes,
Where did that come from?
It came from Spain.
Oh, you brought it back?
Yeah, in the back of the car. There wasn't much room for much else. Well,
ferns do brilliantly here, don't they? You've got quite a collection.
Yes, I'm very keen on them, and of course having all this shade, I've got plenty of opportunity to grow them.
It's one of my favourites, the autumn fern.
I love the bronzy edge of the leaves, and the fact that it keeps its leaves all the winter as well. It's very nice.
And the Blechnum is good with the dark upright fronds.
Yes, well they're the fertile fronds, so those are the ones which carry the spores, but the other fronds also are a nice contrast to other plants.
But I like the way you use them in partnership with these broader leaves too, so you get a sort of tapestry effect.
Yes, I think too many ferns together can look rather fussy, and they don't show themselves off to best effect. But mixed up with other plants, I think they look lovely.
This looks like a border in the sun though.
It is in the sun more than the previous part of the garden, but even so it probably only has sun on it for about a third of the day.
Right.
The overhanging trees.
As you can see, quite a lot of them are leaning over, aren't they, away to look for the light.
Yes, the Moroccan broom leans well away from the hedge, and that has presented a problem early on, that there was a view down the back of the border.
Oh, you saw everything leaning?
You did indeed, yes, which is why we planted the rubus there, which has been very successful and flowers most of the summer
Oh,
for us.
that's a good idea. And the clematis, of course, a lot of the clematis do well in shade, don't they?
Yes, that's Mrs. Chumley, and that flowers extremely well
That's
for us.
beautiful blue.
Yes.
And the martagon lilies, of course, you often see them in woodland glades, don't you?
Yes, we planted them first here, they were so successful that we moved some plants into the shade, and they do well there, although they flower a little later. And this is the last part of the garden that we acquired, which you'll see we're gardening in much more of a wild style.
Right. You're using some of the woodland grasses too, I see.
Yes, we are, yes.
That's Luzula nivea.
Yes, it is, yes.
It's one of my favourites,
Yes.
with the white flower heads.
We also grow Luzula sylvatica, which is very rough for growing under shrubs, very tough,
Yeah.
and goes well with the hardy geraniums, which are very good for maintaining the colour on into the summer months.
And this then is your next canvas.
Yes, indeed. Plenty of scope here for growing even more plants.
And what happens when you get to the end of it? I suppose your neighbour's getting a bit nervous.
Oh, I hope not. I think we're going to be busy here for a few years yet.
Well, on a day like this, you could do with some of the shade in that garden. It is, as a certain tabloid newspaper is wont to say, phew, what a scorcher. And when it is like this, and you're thinking of doing a bit of gardening, and bedding out in particular, it isn't a bad idea just to wait until the evening, until the sun's gone down a little, and the plants aren't under quite such stress and aren't wilting. Instead of labouring away, get out and sit in your garden for half an hour and enjoy something like this. Now, do you remember, a couple of months ago, I planted up this thyme seat. It had a brick enclosure. It wasn't a very nice day, and I put little creeping thymes in the top of this brick-made coffin filled with earth. Well, just look at it now. Baby, it grew. A wonderful dense cushion, and the creeping types at the front are absolutely fine, but one or two of them have risen up a bit, and they're starting to fall open in the centre. Well, what you can do when this happens, and it doesn't matter too much about the weather, is take out your shears and just lightly clip them over. Just cut the tops off like that. And don't think that I'm going to waste these ends, because I'm not. I'm going to take them all off and use them in the pot. This golden stuff too, the golden thyme, can be cut back by a couple of inches. Now, I'm leaving these flowering ones at the back because the flowers are on the shoot tips. If I cut those off, I'll lose the flowers. So I'll have a kind of flowering bolster along the back, but I can shave this golden thyme off a bit because it's not flowering. Phew! I wish this was smelly vision, then you could really get this. There's an amazing aroma coming up. If I just... enveloped in a symphony of scent. Doesn't mind being sat on at all. You do need to water it every few days in this kind of weather because that soil does dry out. But thyme is coming up at my nostrils now. And it'll be wonderful when these honeysuckles open on either side on these tripods. All that's missing is a bolster for me to lean on, and I want to get that courtesy of these cuttings of Pelargonium graveolens that I took earlier in the year. It's a scented-leaved Pelargonium. Oh, I tell you, the fruity mixture of that and the savoury mixture of the thyme is wonderful. All I need to do now is to just get those in along the back. The usual sort of planting system. I've watered it well in its pot. Got a trowel. It doesn't need anything in the way of manure or compost because these scented leaf pelargoniums, like the geraniums, are very happy in quite poor soil. Out of its pot. Into the soil there. Same depth as it was planted in the pot. Oh, this is tortuous. I'm now getting the aroma of this pelargonium mingling with the fragrance of the thyme. And when I get all this lot in on the back of here, it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. If anybody ever says to you, hasn't he got lovely soil, just tell him to listen to the soundtrack on this, will you? There we are. A little bit of perfumed heaven, courtesy of a load of thymes and a row of Pelargonium graveolens. I tell you, when I sit in here on a summer's day now, you'll have a job to get me out. It's the kind of garden that Eric Crate would love. Eric is partially sighted and has his own technique of making his garden work for him.
I do have impaired vision. I'm actually on the blind register. I see probably about 40% out of one eye.